My stepdad took my mom and his kids on a vacation and didn't even bother to tell me. Just left me at home by myself. So I packed up and went to stay with my dad, and that's when things really started to spiral. But let's start at the beginning. I'm 16 now, still in high school, and 2 years ago my mom married a guy named Brian. She's 42, he's 45. For the record, my mom and dad were never married. I actually came from a short fling they had right after college. It wasn't supposed to turn into anything serious, but then my mom got pregnant, and even though everyone expected her to end it, she didn't. She chose to have me. And my dad wanted to be in my life too, so they agreed on shared custody. I split time evenly between both homes, switching every month. Honestly, I know both my parents have gone out of their way to make this work. They've made sacrifices, big ones, just to stay close to me. The biggest one? They've both stayed in the same city for years, just so I wouldn't have to deal with long commutes or flights back and forth. I didn't know about that until recently, but apparently they've passed on a bunch of chances to move up in their careers, all to stay put and keep things easy for me. I also found out my mom turned down a lot of guys who wanted to be with her. She didn't want to deal with juggling a marriage, a demanding job, and raising me on top of all that. She just focused on being a mom. Funny thing is, I only found out about all that because of Brian. He's not exactly stepdad of the year, and my mom felt like she had to explain her choices just to get me to accept him. Her logic? If she could make all those sacrifices for me, I should at least try to get along with the man she chose. But here's the thing, I never asked her to do all that. She could have ended the pregnancy, or let my dad raise me alone. I never demanded anything. But I didn't argue with her either, because I love her and want her to be happy. So, yeah, I was willing to give Brian a chance, even if he didn't exactly roll out the welcome mat. And by that, I don't mean he was rude or mean. He just didn't like me. And he didn't hide it. Seriously, what kind of grown man holds a grudge against a teenager? I never disrespected him. I've always been polite, tried to keep things cool, because that's how I was raised. Be kind, even when people aren't kind to you. But Brian? He never insulted me directly or said anything nasty. He just straight up ignored me. Like I didn't exist. For 3 years now, it's been the same, he won't even acknowledge I'm in the room. It's honestly the weirdest feeling. It's like I'm invisible to him, and I still don't know what I did to deserve that. Which makes it impossible to fix, because I don't even know what's broken. When I brought it up to my mom, she said that's just how Brian is. She swore it wasn't personal, he didn't hate me, he just wasn't comfortable around me yet. Whatever that means. She said he'd never been with someone who had kids before, and he just needed time. That explanation didn't sit right with me. Especially since Brian has 2 kids of his own, boys, 15 and 12. Their mom died in an accident right after the younger one was born. And besides, I wasn't even living at home full-time. I was still switching houses every month. So this whole idea that I was always around didn't make sense. But I let it go. A few months passed, and eventually I just accepted it, this guy was never going to talk to me. After a year of dating my mom, Brian proposed, and a few months later, they got married. That's when things really changed. Brian moved in, with his 2 sons. Before the wedding, I'd only seen his kids a couple of times. And just like their dad, they didn't talk to me. It was like they'd been coached to act like I wasn't there. I don't know how I dealt with that, being treated like a ghost in my own home, for as long as I did. Before they tied the knot, Brian and my mom lived separately. His mom was sick and living with him, so he couldn't move in. But after the wedding, he had his sister take care of his mom, and brought his sons to live with us. I don't know if anyone out there has ever had to live in a house where people act like you don't even exist, but let me tell you, it's not easy. It messes with your head. Day in and day out, I was stuck in that house with people who wouldn't say a word to me, like I was some kind of criminal or stray they just couldn't get rid of. And the worst part? I never got an explanation. I still don't know what I did to deserve that treatment. But at least now, I don't live with them anymore, so I try not to let it eat at me. Their behavior never changed. Not once. I just got used to the silence. I'd already gotten used to Brian ignoring me every time he came by to see my mom, which was often. Then after the wedding, I had to get used to Brian and his kids living in the same house as me, while pretending I didn't exist. Every time I stayed with my mom, I'd have to brace myself mentally for 2 straight weeks of only talking to her. She was the only one in that house who would even acknowledge me. It stung. But I still wanted to spend time with her, so I put up with it. I knew she wasn't going to confront Brian. Believe me, I tried to get her to talk to him, more than once. I practically begged her to sit down and figure out why he treated me like that. But all she'd say was that she had already brought it up with him. She hinted that there were some personal reasons she couldn't share, and that's why he was the way he was toward me. And she just left it at that. According to her, she understood where he was coming from, and she also understood that it hurt me. But in the end, I was just expected to deal with it. Every time I stood up for myself or even pushed back a little, she'd get emotional and accuse me of being ungrateful. She'd remind me, again and again, how many sacrifices she made to raise me. And then she'd say that the least I could do was cut Brian some slack and suck it up for her sake. I wanted to push back, I really did. But I didn't want to hurt her, so I bit my tongue. I never even told my dad about any of this, even though it ate me up. If he found out, I knew he'd lose it. He'd tear into my mom for letting it happen. My parents are very different people, especially when it comes to raising me. They argue about the smallest things, so I knew something this big. It'd blow up into a full-on war. My dad might have even tried to get full custody or something drastic like that. So to keep the peace, I stayed quiet. I pretended everything was normal between me and mom and her new family. But I've been dealing with this for 3 years now, 1 year while they were dating and 2 years since they've been living together, and it's drained me. I'm worn out, and I've finally hit my breaking point. What happened recently? That was the final straw. Last month was my turn to stay at my mom's place. As usual, Brian and his sons acted like I didn't exist. I was already going through a rough time, been having arguments with a couple of friends at school, and my head just wasn't in a good place. Then, 2 weeks ago, I woke up and realized the house was completely empty. Gone. No sounds. No one in the kitchen. Not even a note. The night before, everything had seemed normal, well, normal by their standards. Brian and his kids were chatting with each other, ignoring me as always. Nothing out of the ordinary. No hint that something was up. So when I woke up and saw no one around, I panicked a little. I called my mom right away. Thankfully, she picked up. I asked her what was going on, why the house was empty. And she casually told me that she, Brian, and the kids had gone on a week-long trip. She asked me to stay back and keep an eye on the house. I'm on summer break, yeah, so it's not like I have school. But still, leaving me home alone without even giving me a heads up? That's not okay. I told her straight up that I wasn't comfortable with it. If she wanted someone to guard the house, she should have hired actual security, not tricked me into it. Honestly, I wasn't just mad about being left behind, I was hurt. They didn't even bother to tell me. No heads up, no chance to say if I was okay with it. If she'd just been honest, I might have even said yes. I mean, what teenage guy wouldn't want the house to himself for a few days? I probably would have called up a couple buddies, maybe had a mini hangout and enjoyed it. But nope, I didn't even get that chance. And to make things worse, I was already beefing with my friends, so I didn't even have anyone to call. All of it just hit at once. I felt completely abandoned. I told my mom she owed me an apology. I get that Brian doesn't like me, fine, but the least they could have done was tell me before leaving. It's not cool to just vanish and leave someone to figure it out on their own. And her response? She told me I was overreacting. That I needed to get over it. Then she hung up. I tried to call her again, but she ignored it. She just texted me saying she was trying to enjoy her trip and she'd talk to me later once she got to the hotel. I was done. Completely over it. I decided I wasn't going to stick around and play house sitter anymore. I tried to call her again, just to let her know I was leaving, but she didn't pick up. Straight to voicemail. So I did what she usually does when she leaves. I locked up the house and tucked the keys under a potted plant by the door. Then I left and headed straight to my dad's. When I got to his place, he looked surprised. He wasn't expecting to see me until the end of the month, since I was supposed to be staying with Mom. He raised an eyebrow, like he knew something was up. I'd had enough. I packed up, went straight to my dad's place, and for the first time, I told him everything. I laid it all out, how Brian treated me like I didn't exist, how he had basically trained his sons to do the same, and how I'd spent years trying to be respectful even though it felt like I was being punished for something I didn't even understand. I told my dad how Mom never stood up for me, not once. Every time I brought it up to her, she'd just brush it off, saying Brian had personal reasons for acting that way, but she wouldn't tell me what those reasons were. So I was stuck in this weird, silent punishment with no idea why. I put up with it all for her sake. Because I loved her. Because she kept reminding me of everything she'd given up to raise me, like that somehow meant I owed her silence and obedience in return. But it had gotten to a point where I just couldn't take it anymore. I told my dad because he deserved to know. I figured maybe, just maybe, he could help. Because I was done feeling like garbage in my own home, like some unwanted guest in a family I didn't ask to be part of. Then I told him about how Mom and Brian had gone on that trip, left me behind without a single word, and expected me to just babysit their house like it was my job. And that's not even what stung the most. What really hurt was that they didn't think I was even worth telling. I didn't matter enough to be included in the plan, or even given a heads up. When I tried calling my mom to talk about it, she kept rejecting my calls. Like I wasn't even worth 5 seconds of her attention. That's when I knew, this wasn't okay anymore. I didn't expect it, but when I finished talking, I broke down. Just started crying. Everything I'd been bottling up over the last few years came crashing out. I used to have a decent relationship with my mom, you know. But ever since Brian showed up, it was like I disappeared from her world. My dad didn't say much at first. He just listened. Then he told me, calm and serious, "I've got it from here." I could tell he was mad, but he didn't say a single bad word about her to me. He just said he was proud of me for finally opening up. Said the weight wasn't mine to carry anymore. From that moment on, he told me I'd be living with him, and if I ever wanted to go back to my mom's, that would be my call, but he strongly advised against it. So I stayed. I didn't call my mom, and honestly, what shocked me most was that she didn't try to call me either. Not even once. I mean, she'd left her teenage son alone at home without warning. You'd think she'd check in at some point, but nope. Nothing. It hurt. But after getting all that off my chest with my dad, I started to feel a little lighter. I decided I wasn't going to let it drag me down anymore. Then, after about 5 days of total silence, my phone rang. It was my mom. For a second, I thought maybe she was finally calling to check on me. Nope. She was screaming. She was yelling at me like I'd just burned the house down. Turns out, they'd been robbed. Their TV and a bunch of expensive stuff were gone, and she was blaming me for it. I was stunned. I reminded her that I tried to call and let her know I was leaving, but she never answered. Straight to voicemail. After she finished yelling, I told her how hurt I was. That I'd tried to reach out multiple times but she'd ignored every call. And now she was pinning the blame on me. She said, you could have at least sent a text. And yeah, maybe that's fair. But I told her I didn't do it because I was angry. I thought it was obvious I wasn't okay with how she treated me. She knew I was upset, she hung up on me, after all. So why would she expect me to stay behind and play housekeeper? The fight blew up from there. She insisted that I should have stayed, no matter how I felt, because it was about safety. She said she trusted me to keep the house safe and now I'd let her down. But here's the thing, I never agreed to that. I never said I'd be responsible for guarding the house. In fact, I tried to tell her I was leaving, and she ignored me. So how is that on me? She and Brian both started blaming me for the break-in. And get this, Brian, the man who hadn't said a single word to me in years, finally opened his mouth, just to tell me I'd ruined everything. Said he always knew I'd be the one to destroy them. What? We don't even talk. How do you build that kind of resentment towards someone you've never even tried to know? Now my parents are at war. My dad says this whole thing is on my mom, and honestly, I agree. But she's flipping the script and saying it's my fault. She's even demanding that my dad pay her for the stuff that got stolen because he's defending me. I don't know what to do. The only way she'll drop this whole thing is if I apologize to her and Brian. But I don't want to apologize. Not when I know I didn't do anything wrong. At the same time, I don't want her to keep dragging my dad into this either. So now I'm just stuck wondering, am I really the asshole here? For leaving my mom's house to stay with my dad after she and Brian ditched me without a word and left me to play security guard. Update 1, it's been 2 weeks since that whole mess, and some new info came to light. Turns out, I finally figured out why Brian's always had it out for me. Apparently, way back when they started dating, Brian asked my mom if his mom could move in with them. So here's what really happened. Back when my mom and Brian were only about 3 months into dating, things were getting serious, too serious if you ask me, but that was her business. Brian had asked her if he could move in with her, and not just him, his mother too. She was in poor health but had a full-time nurse, and really just needed people around for emotional support. But my mom wasn't ready to live with him yet, let alone with a sick mother-in-law in the mix. She wasn't up for that kind of responsibility, and honestly, I get it. But instead of just telling him the truth, she pinned it all on me. Yeah, me. She made up this whole story that I was the reason she couldn't have his family move in. She said I was unstable, that I'd driven off her past boyfriends because I still hoped my parents would get back together, and I couldn't handle anyone else being in her life. She made it sound like I was some angry little monster trying to sabotage her relationships. Apparently, she even told Brian that I called his mom a useless burden and said if she moved in, I'd make sure her life was miserable. She claimed I called his kids evil little goblins who'd destroy our family. I mean, seriously? That's not me. I'd never say stuff like that, I don't even think that way. But she made me out to be this vindictive, heartless teen, and Brian bought it. He believed every word. Looking back, I guess that's why he suddenly shut me out. Why he treated me like a threat instead of a stepson. I always wondered why he hated me so much when I never gave him a reason, and now I know. My mom lied to him. And for 3 years, she let him and his kids treat me like I didn't matter because it worked in her favor. I found all this out just a few days ago. Apparently, Brian had been pressuring her to cut ties with me altogether, to fully disown me. She didn't want to, and eventually the guilt caught up to her. She came clean. Now they're living apart. Brian's devastated. He sent me an email to apologize. Said he couldn't believe how badly he treated me, all because of lies. He said if she just told him the truth from the start, that she wasn't comfortable caring for someone so sick, he would have figured something else out with his sister. But she lied, and it cost everyone something. I haven't replied to Brian's email yet. I don't even know what to say. I'm still sorting through how I feel about all of this. But yeah, that's why he hated me. That's why his kids ignored me. And that's why my own mother let it happen. It turns out she was also telling him I was always in trouble at school, causing problems, stuff that wasn't true. But Brian believed her because she was the one talking, and I wasn't. And since we never spoke directly, he had no reason to doubt her. Honestly, it blows my mind. My own mom turned me into the villain to protect her lie. She used me as a shield so she wouldn't have to admit she didn't want to care for a sick woman. That's messed up. Now my dad is filing for full custody. And yeah, I'm behind him 100%. My mom's falling apart. She keeps saying she just wanted a happy family and didn't mean for things to get so bad. But here's the thing, happy families don't come from lies and manipulation. You don't get to wreck people's lives just to keep your own story straight. Update 2, not only is my dad going for full custody, but now Brian's filing for divorce. I only found out because my mom sent my dad a bunch of desperate messages, begging him to help fix this and talk to Brian on her behalf. She said she couldn't live without us. I'm not sure what world she's living in, but after what she's done, I don't see how she expects us to just forgive and forget. She let me suffer. For years. She knew exactly what she was doing. She was fine with me being treated like dirt, all so she could keep up her lie. And now that it's blown up in her face, she's playing the victim. Honestly, I wouldn't wish what I went through on anyone. Wondering for years what I did wrong, why I was hated, when the truth was, it wasn't about me at all. I've blocked her on everything. I don't want to hear from her ever again. I spent so long trying to be a good son, wanting her to be happy, thinking if I just held on a little longer, things would get better. But it's clear now, she didn't care about me the way I cared about her. We both made her happiness a priority, but that's over now. Update 3, it's official. Brian filed for divorce. Now it's all anyone in my extended family can talk about. Even some of my parents' mutual friends are buzzing about it. My mom, meanwhile, is handling it in the weirdest way, posting sad, dramatic quotes all over social media. My cousins keep sending me screenshots. Honestly, I have no idea what she's hoping to accomplish with that. She built this mess. She made her bed, and now she's lying in it. Update 4, my dad officially has full custody. It took a couple of months, mostly because her lawyer dragged things out, but we had the proof. Everything she put me through, it was all documented. And with the divorce hanging over her, she didn't really stand a chance in court. She has visitation rights, technically. But I don't plan on using them. I don't want to see her. I don't want to talk to her. Not now, maybe not ever. Life with my dad is good. I'm happy. I've even patched things up with my friends. Things are finally starting to feel normal again. And for the first time in a long while, I'm actually looking forward to what comes next.